Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We meet again, inshallah, to continue with our study of Surah Al-Zhariyat. Let's start off with the intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will continue on with Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Let's continue with the dua. Allahumma nawwir bil Qur'ani basari washrah bihi sadri wa atliq bihi lisani wasta'mil bihi badani wa qawwi bihi jinani wa asri' bihi fahmi bihawlika wa quwwatika fa innahu la hawla wa la quwwata illa bika ya arhamar rahimin. والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الحمد لله. All right, we continue on with Surah Al-Zhariyat. All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We did verses 8 to 14 in our last lesson. Allah told them that they differ in what they say. So these are these believers. They say a lot of things are basically because they are all invented. So they do not come to a firm position for all of them. Those who turn away from it will be turned away. That means turn away from the Quran, they will be turned away. Is turned away from it who would be turned away. It's the same thing, sorry. The liars are cursed. Liars are cursed. We saw the word that was used for the liars, and there was we had discussion on it. Those who heedlessly and are neglectful. So they are heedless and they are neglectful. They can't be bothered. They're not interested in the message from Rasulullah SAW. They keep on asking, when is the day of judgment? It is a day on which they shall be tried at the fire. Yeah, so we saw that this question was not a sincere question to seek knowledge, but a question to make fun of the warnings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is what they were doing, and there is no reason to give them the answer of when it is, because it doesn't help them to know when it is. What is important is what's going to happen on that day, and that day they will be tried at the fire. Yeah, we even discussed the word used here, the fitna that was used here, and there were many opinions on it, right? And it is some of them says that, some of the scholars says that the trials that they went through, they failed on the trials that they went through on earth, and so they will be in the fire, right, because of these trials. They will be told to taste their trial which they were hastening. So that is their trial, their trial. They were keeping on asking, when is the judgment day? When is the judgment day? So Allah told them to taste. This is what you've been asking for, right? Because you did not, there were trials on you, and you did not pass. You did not dwell in the trials. All right, so let's continue. Innal muttaqina fi jannatin wa uyun. Inna surely al muttaqin here is plural. There's an ism, right, from the word taqwa here. Of course, the root word of taqwa is wiqaya, and it is a nasab. The yanun, always remember, yanun can either be nasab or jar, and inna is a huruf nasab. Fi jannat, in jannat, so fi is huruf jar, jannat is jar state. Again, jannatin can be jar or nasab. In this case, it is jar. Wa uyun and springs. Uyun, springs. Fi is in, right? So uyun, we see again a jar state here. Uyun from the word ainun. Ainun is a spring. Uyun is lots of springs. Innal muttaqina fi jannati wa uyun. So here we have the opposite of those people who are finding faults, who are trying to prove that the prophets were not truthful people. So, and they were the neglectful, heedless people. On the other hand, we have the people of taqwa here, and Allah used an ism here, surely the muttaqin. So it is emphasized that people who are constantly, all the time, in a state of being wary of the consequences of the action, wary of the rights of them, honoring the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they are always in a state of guarding themselves. So that's muttaqeen, and there's a lot of them. Fi jannati wa uyun. So where those who are doubtful of the day of resurrection, making lots of fun about the day of resurrection, mocking the day of resurrection, will be tried at the fire, right? The tests, the trials will cause them to be in the fire. The people who are always on the lookout for India amals will be in gardens, lots of gardens, right? Jannat, right? Everyone has their own special garden, and they will be of those who are, and the gardens will have lots of springs. Some translation put as fountains. Springs and fountains are beautiful places that people enjoy, right? Because it gives you calmness and tranquility. So film innal muttaqina fi jannati wa uyun. Gardens and springs are the two most frequent symbols used in the Quran for the highest satisfaction and bliss. I mean, we are human. We love their beautiful gardens, and sometimes, no matter sometimes how much we try to have beautiful gardens, we're still not able to get our beautiful gardens. But when it's called Jannat, the word Jannat, this word jinn, right, comes from the jinn, right? Something that is which is considered as not seen. All right, Jannat is considered as a garden in which is so lush and beautiful that the soil cannot be seen. And that's what it's called Jannat, a special kind of garden. There are other words for garden in the Arabic word like bustan and a few other words. And of course, to have springs and gardens and, whatever it's called, fountains, right? So just very, very, very beautiful things. I mean, we have people having some kind of fountain in the garden, in their house, to give that tranquil feeling. All right. The qualities of the Muttaqin described in these verses are found in the Ahlul Bayt to the maximum degree. All right, the Ahlul Bayt, we are not with the Shiites in this sense, but Rasulullah has advised us to gain knowledge from the Ahlul Bayt, and the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah, as we know, do exist until now. And they are from the descendants of Sayyidina Hussein and Sayyidina Hassan radiallahu anhu, and they do exhibit a lot of the characteristics of the Muttaqin, and we see them around, those whom we are aware of, in fact, and also those who were those who have passed on, like Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jailani. These are people of the book. Imam Ja'far, As-Sadiq, this is the great grandson of Rasulullah. So many of them are beautiful men. There's beautiful characteristics, right? They are people of taqwa. Therefore, we are asked to follow in their footsteps, taking them as our guides and disregarding all others who have defective character and conduct. So it's very essential that when we gain knowledge from people who gain from this descendants of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why the sanad is very important in seeking knowledge. Sanad means the links. Hamza Yusuf has a series which we call living links. Living links means we are linked directly. Our knowledge, we receive our knowledge from people who are linked directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's very critical, or else we might get it all wrong if we do not have that kind of link to the descendants of Rasulullah and eventually to Rasulullah either via of course it's Sayyidina Ali, because Sayyidina Hussein and Sayyidina Hassan are both from Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. For our benefit, Rasulullah spoke these words: I leave behind me two very important things, the word of Allah and my Ahlul Bayt. So this is of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is very critical that we hold on to the Quran. It is said that people are not reading the Quran, they are not learning the Quran, they're not living by the Quran. They have lost the Quran. That is why there's a verse in the Quran in which Rasulullah would intercede for some, was actually was asking Allah to allow him to intercede for his ummah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him that these people are people who have left the Quran, so he is not able to intercede for them. So inshallah, we want to continue. Alhamdulillah, we are here blessed to be learning the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to understand, inshallah, bring us closer to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his Ahlul Bayt. So Rasulullah left there because the Ahlul Bayt are people of taqwa. If you attach yourself to these two, you will never go astray. This is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These two shall never be separated from each other until they meet me at the fountain of Kawthar in paradise. Right, so the Quran will not be separated from the Ahlul Bayt. Ahlul Bayt, so of course not all of the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah are great, amazing people, but we look at those who have real knowledge and are linked to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we see them in their character, beautiful manners and beautiful acknowledgement of the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these two, that what we see is that the Ahlul Bayt who are attached to the Quran, they memorize the Quran, they teach the Quran, they live the Quran, right? Living, that means they live life as what the Quran wants them to be, right? They will meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the fountain of Kawthar, and we also would love to be of those people who would be with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the fountain of Kawthar. The likeness of my Ahlul Bayt is that of the ark of Noah. He who enters it will be saved, while he who turns away from it would be drowned and lost. And so it is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is very clear for us to understand that it's important that we get attached, or we learn from the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like Imam al-Haddad, all these are great Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Here, a contrasting image is drawn. This depicts a different group, reassured in their certainty, eager to do what is good without boasting about it, fully awake at night when they volunteer their night worship. So this is another group of people. Allah brings us to understand that there are such people on earth, people who are called muttaqin. Interestingly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, right at the onset of Surah Al-Baqarah, just after we make a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our Fatiha, ask Allah to guide us along the Sirat al-Mustaqim, this path that keeps us upright and close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sirat al-Lazina an'amta alayhim, right? The path of those people whom you bless. It's a direct conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with great ni'mah, great bounties. We want to be of those people who are blessed with great bounties and not those who incur wrath. That means they incur the wrath not only from Allah but from all creatures because they disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They disregarded the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They dishonored. They do not give Allah the due honor that is due to him. And of course, the Dhalin are those people who are astray, right? So, and then Allah moves on in Surah Al-Baqarah. So we are asking to be of those who are blessed with great bounties, on the upright path, not those who incur the anger of all of the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who incur anger, and not those who are astray. And so Allah described the people of taqwa in Surah Al-Baqarah. Just right answer in the Alif Lam Mim Dhalika al-kitabu la rayba fihi hudan lil muttaqin, right? That is a book. There is no doubt about it, a guidance for those people of taqwa. So the book is linked to the people of taqwa. Inshallah, we'll be among those people. This group are fully alert, sensitive to the fact that Allah watches them, and therefore they carefully watch their own behavior. These will be placed amid gardens and springs. The word pious or muttaqin is a comprehensive attribute used by the Quran for all those who lead their lives within the bounds and limits set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have understood this word muttaqin and gone through the word muttaqin. Root word is waqiyah, and waqaf and yah. Ta shows that they the ta in its insertion and muttaqin. So this is the ifta'ala structure. The ta insertion shows that they put in effort. There must be effort to put in our guarding against disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here too, they are primarily referred to. However, since in the earlier verses, these people are mentioned who are indifferent to the hereafter and to reward and punishment here, in contrast, those people are specifically, especially referred to who are heedful to reward and punishment, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It is very clear here that the Quran is bringing us images of two groups of people, so that we can use our intellect to make a choice. So it shows here that human beings are given. The Quran is a great proof, right, that Allah has given human beings a freedom of choice, right? By trying, the Quran engages them, trying to help them to see through what is bad and what is good, and then make their choices. So the Quran here allows people to make informed choices of how they want to lead their life on earth. Thus, it especially refers to those people who always regarded themselves to be accountable for every undertaking of theirs and knew that they will be punished for all excesses. So they're very aware, right? They will, whatever they do, they are very careful, knowing that they will be questioned concerning it, and they worry that they might move into states of excesses. Here would be what we call it those who go overboard, those who exceed limits set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know they'll be punished if they do that. In reality, this fear for reward and punishment is the real spirit of taqwa. So that was it is right about having taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A taqwa devoid of this spirit is mere ostentation and pretension, which carries no weight before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a spirit of fear, right? This fear for reward, fear. That is why in sometimes the word taqwa is translated into the word fear. Fear of not getting reward, fear of being punished. Okay? So we need to humble with taqwa. We would be blessed with a state of humility. We would go into being humbled because we know we have a God to live for, right? And we need to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times. Of course, there are some people who would say that we should not do good deeds just for the reward and fear of punishment. But the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala identifies this or highlights rewards and punishment, it shows that there is nothing wrong with it. It shows that those who believe in the reward and punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they believe in what the Prophet has brought. Because some of people would say that we should do it because of our honor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should do it because of our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should do it because Allah is our object in life. object. Allah is the one that we would turn to. And some people would actually state the words of Raba'atul Adawiyah, in which she said, Ya Allah, if I worship you for community of heaven, then put me in hell. I remember Ustaz Abdullah mentioned this statement made by Rabi'atul Adawiyah that she is a slave of Allah who has reached a certain station, where her station is a station of intense love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why she is also known as Ashiqa. And Ashiqa means she is just deeply, deeply close, attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She would not ever imagine disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's always there to seek ways and means so that Allah will approve of all that she does. So we do not everybody is of that station, right, in which you do it not because of the punishment, not because of the heaven, right, but to do it for heaven is still fine, because different people are of different in a different maqam is station. So it's not about ostentation, showing off, being proud, right? And not about pretending, because Allah knows exactly our real intention of obedience and protection ourselves from disobedience. Earlier, the fate of the indifferent was mentioned, that they will be cooked in a fire, worked up by the very adornments of this world, which had lured them away from the hereafter, and they will be told to taste this adornment. So we have gone through this the part where they were taught the trials, right? They were burned in the trials of their own trials. These are the adornments, some say adornments of the world. And of course, the word fitna has the meaning of being burnt or being boiled, just like gold, and all those things we have gone through. So these are the people who live life for this world. They are just, they are lost in the world. On the other hand, since these people never gave any importance to these adornments, the Almighty will admit them to gardens and springs. So these are people who live life controlling themselves from the various temptations of the earth. Why are they controlling themselves? Because of their great reverence for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So both Jannat and Uyun are inseparable, and these two words, in fact, are meant to comprehensively cover all the favors of the hereafter. Right? So these are great, beautiful conditions of the hereafter. Of course, Allah calls it Jannat, and we do understand the meaning of Jannat and Uyun. But then again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that whatever is being mentioned about the next world is beyond our senses. Right? It's much more beautiful than we can ever imagine. So these are great delights of the next world. The word fi refers to the fact fi jannatin wa uyun, refers to the fact that they will be surrounded by the favors of the hereafter, and they will find these favors being showered on them wherever they turn to. Right? So fi means they are immersed, right? Immersed in these great joys of the next world, which are represented by gardens and by large gardens and springs. The word Jannat, the plural form of Jannah, one is Jannat with an alif ta, the other one is Jannah. I should put Arabic there, then we can see the difference, right? Which may not only allude to the point that they will enjoy different kinds of paradise, but it may also make a reference to the point that they will enjoy physical and spiritual paradise and springs without bounds. So this is again an attempt by scholars to make us understand that what we get in the next world is beyond description. And there's lots of joys, physical joys and spiritual joys, right, in these gifts of paradise. Or the description of paradise. The word oyun is a plural of ayn, which may refer to different kinds of springs to be enjoyed by the muttaqin, the God-fearing, the muttaqin. All right. Akhidina. All right, akhidina from the word akhadha. And this one is plural. Ya noon, right? Inna. If you talk about inna, then it is nasab. Right, we're going to look back at the sentence. Akhidina. So these are receivers. Ma'atahum. Rabbuhum, ma is what? As we know, ma has many meanings, so we need to look at the context, right, to decipher the meaning. It can be what, it can be that, it can be not, right? So that is why those who read the Quran uh, with Arabic understanding, right, as they read, they need to realize or think about the meaning of this word. So it is said that those who continue being engaged with the Quran, they will not become sinner, inshallah. Akhizina ma atahum. Ma is what? Ata is gave. Plural fi'il madi. Hum is them. Rabbuhum. So the Rabbu here is Rafa. So he is the one who gave them. Right? Rabbuhum gave Rabbuhum, their Rabb. Innahum, surely they, Kanu, they were, Qabla dhalika, before that, Qabla is before, dhalika, that, Muhsinin, from the word Hasan, Hasan is good, Ihsan, excellent, Muhsinin, people who are excellent. Taking what their Lord gives them, their Rabb gives them, right? The word taking here, right, is used, but in the actual Arabic, you can see it is an ism, right, which shows that they are always people who takes, right, and continuously taking whatever their Rabb gives them, and gives them. Okay, past tense there, right, gave them. It could be in this past tense as when they were in the previous world. Right now they are in Jannat, right? As per the verse, they're in Jannat enjoying the oyun and everything. Right now they are those who have taken whatever Allah gave them. Innahum, surely they can also, surely they were before that the doers of good. Right? We do have issues with the word doers of good, whereas the Quranic term used here is muhsinin, which means the excellent ones, those who excel, right? The doers of good, people who want to find faults with certain teachings of Islam, right? Actually, when they see the word doers of good, they will refer to it as just being good people. So some people actually come to conclusion that you can just be good and you don't have to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you don't have to have a God. You're just a human, a good human. So that is not true. A muhsinin is those who live the pillars of ihsan. I will go on to that later on. So this is whatever Allah gave them, they took it. They are very pleased and happy to obey the teachings of the Prophet Sallallahu. And the greatest ni'mah that we have is the ni'mah of faith. I was listening to a conversation between Hamza Yusuf and Imran Khan, the ex-president, sadly, the ex-president of Pakistan, right? He mentioned that the greatest gift that he has was the gift of faith. One time he wasn't a Muslim who was inclined to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but his love for his mother actually caused him to hold on to the religion despite the fact that he doesn't know much of the religion. But later on the years, after his, he got into Islam and understood Islam so much so that he felt that the love of Rasulullah is lacking, the knowledge of Rasulullah is lacking among the Muslims in Pakistan. That is why he had planned to make a university, after which these people would be educated, and also not only in the secular sciences, but understanding and knowing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So faith is what we have, and we are very happy that Allah blesses us with faith, and we should every time when we say our shahada, and we are among those blessed ones to be saying the shahada at least how many times a day the shahada? At least 11 times a day. 11 times a day. Because in our salat, in our tahiyyah, right, we said our shahada. And that affirms us as people who take Allah as our God and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as our messenger. And these are beautiful moments for us, and we should allow ourselves, right, put ourselves in a state of great joy as we raise our finger, our forefinger, and our pointing finger, and we say the Shahada. Remember, moments of great joy that we are people who believe in Allah and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Allah, whatever Allah gave them, they took it. They are so full of happiness with whatever Allah blessed them with. They shall be receiving what their Rabb will have granted them. So this is an opinion that in the next world they will be receiving. Right? They are people, they are continuously receiving things which are given by their Rabb. Now, ata is, as you can see, it is a past tense, and we are aware that the past in the Arab is used in the Arabic language to show that it is confirmed. Confirm, definitely confirm, they will be receivers of what their Rabb gave them. So Rabb here, as mentioned, when Allah uses the word Rabb here, Allah is allowing them to understand or to make them realize that they have a master and they are true slaves of the master. But in this context, receiving does not merely mean to receive, but to receive joyfully. So this is a further elaboration of understanding the word akhirina. In fact, we hardly get to see this word being used in the Quran. And that is why we do realize, as the Quran keeps on pointing out to us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala varies the way He describes things, the way He brings our attention to things. So here we are brought to feel the joys or the people in paradise as they are being continuously blessed with lots of things from their Rabb. Obviously, when a person is given something of his own choice and liking, his receiving it will naturally have the meaning of accepting and receiving it joyfully. These people are people who work hard and they toiled in this world just to seek Allah's approval of their actions, and they just do it willingly out of love, of reverence for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they believe that in the next world, they will be blessed with lots of things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So definitely, all of us, inshallah, right, we are all doing things because we believe in the next world. We are people of the next world. We are people who do work in this world so that we'll be rewarded in the next world. So when we get these rewards that we have been looking forward to, then there will be great joy and happiness in receiving it. This is a portrayal of how these people will freely benefit from these favors. The word akhidina is in nasab and thus depicts this situation. Right, nasab because of the inna is mentioned, innal muttaqina. So further elaboration of the word muttaqina is that they are those who will be receiving, right, lots of good from their Rabb. Depicts the situation that very instant they will be receiving from their Rabb what He will be blessing them. So their Rabb is giving them lots and lots of things, and things which are definitely they're going to receive, and He will bless them with all this. The past tense used in ma'atahum rabbuhum shows that as far as blessing them is concerned, its decision and promise has already been made by the Almighty earlier. So you can see here a different look at the use of past tense. That this past tense is already in the past. As mentioned, past tense can be in the past in the Arabic language, and it can be something that is confirmed, right? So if it's going to be taken as a past tense, that means it is already confirmed. It's a decision and promise that Allah has made, right? Allah has promised that for those who obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this case muttaqin, as we know, as mentioned again, I mentioned previously about in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah actually categorized people into three groups. Put the people into three groups. First group are the people of taqwa, right? And Allah used the word muttaqin, which means at all times they are people of taqwa. Second group are the disbelievers, outright disbelievers. And the third group are the hypocrites. At times, they do there are two types of hypocrites actually, and mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. The first one are those who are obvious hypocrites who say we believe and actually do not believe. And the second one are those who say they believe, but at times they do actions of disbelievers because they disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most of us actually are still in the category of hypocrites in some sense, right? Because we are not all the time in a state of being aware and being in full obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah has decided, as said, that the people of taqwa will be in Jannah. It will not require a new decision for this. It will be precisely be the time to benefit from these blessings, which means that Allah has decided that you do this, you're going to get this. So that's the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So it's precisely, right, the time for them to get those blessings because of their hard work, of their denial of the various so-called enjoyments of the world, the various luxuries of the world, the various great temptations of the world. They have denied themselves of all those things. They even denied themselves of sleep. They denied themselves of eating good food. They denied themselves of all kinds of things, right? Just to gain this promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever they desire, whenever they desire, whatever amount they will be able to get from unlimited treasures of the Arab. So this is talking about the Akhidin, those who will be always receiving all kinds of things that Allah blessed them with. Right? Here we can see a different way of approaching the state of people in Jannah. In Surah Baqarah, again, Allah did mention about those people in Jannah, right? They will be given fruits, and then they say, "Oh, we've got these fruits before," and then some of us say they recall the fruits that they got in the world, right? And it looks the same, but Allah says, "Yes, it looks the same, but it's not the same. They are of different tastes and varieties." But some scholars would say that they are referring to the fruit that they just got before. They are thinking of maybe, oh, when I was in the world, I used to enjoy eating maybe durians, grapes, whatever, right? Mangoes. Some people just love mangoes. The mangoes got in this world itself, we can get so many varieties of mangoes with different kind of tastes, and we are aware that the GM mangoes are not as tasty as the real organic ones, and because that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Human beings has distorted much of the composition of mangoes and durians, and durians is more seasonal. Mangoes normally are seasonal, but they are brought down so early, and then chemicals are added on to cause them to ripen, and they don't really taste good. All right, but the fruits of Jannah are just amazing. So you can see that they are receivers, continuously receiving great joys, great bounties from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As mentioned, right, the Quran describe and same idea but differently, so that we feel it different. There shall be no restriction on them. They observe the restrictions which the Arab imposed on them in the previous world. As mentioned, right, it is said that for the believers, right, the world is a prison, whereas for the disbelievers, it is they are not in prison because they don't have that restrictions that we have. When we are in prison, we are restricted from doing certain things in our lives. In reward for this, the Almighty will allow them to freely benefit from His favors. They can use them in whatever way they like. No restrictions now remains on them. إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَبْلَ ذَلِكَ مُحْسِنِينَ. So Allah goes on to explain who these people were, why are they given such great gifts, and always receiving all kinds of great things from the Arab. Because they emphasizing it, definitely they, right, as we know, when we start off with inna means emphasizing, and then home is an ism, it shows that there's further emphasis here. Kanu, they were, qabla dhalik, before that is of course in the previous world. It means now they are in the hereafter, then in this world they were muhsinin. So as mentioned, the word muhsinin are people who uphold the tenets of ihsan, or the pillars of ihsan. And just to recall, the pillars of ihsan are two, which are right? They worship, or they obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They enslave themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if they see Him, this first pillar. And even though they do not see Him, they are aware that He sees them, that Allah sees them. So with that in mind, they actually move on to beautify their actions, and they do the best that they can do, right, in observing the various regulations, the laws, and the various um, advice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is a muhsin. This is the highest form, right? A muhsin, as we are aware, when we went through the Surah Yusuf, Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam has been described as a muhsin. And we are aware that in that surah, we come to conclusion that to be a muhsin, you must be a muttaqeen and a sabirin, right? Always aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always on guard to ensure that you do not violate the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also to hold yourself in the various situations in life so that whatever you do, it is in line with what Allah wants you to do. So these are people who beautify their behavior, their actions, they make it the best. So we call them the excellent ones. They excel in their obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Innahum kanu qabla dhalika muhsinin. These words refer to the reason for granting them these great favors. Why? Because they were putting in their best in whatever they do. We know, we are aware. We take an example in the world, right? Those who get first class honors, they put in a lot of effort. Yeah, they give the same project, or the project, the studies and everything. Right? Everybody is given the same knowledge by their lecturers, by their teachers, but in their learnings and their studying, they put in extra effort. Their projects are beautifully decorated or illustrated with all kinds of research that they had, right? And so they got first class honors. Not everybody would put in that kind of effort to get the first class honors. Some people, as long as I pass, good enough, right? As long as I get my degree, I'm fine. I don't need to get first class honors. Likewise, right, with among the believers, also there are those who just said, just as long as I just do minimum, bare minimum. As long as I get to Jannah, that's important. Right? They do not aim for the highest in Jannah. Although Rasulullah has said that when you ask for Jannah to Firdaus. That means, and in asking, we need to realize that in the du'as that we are taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the du'as actually pushes us, right, to be what we want to work towards that aim of ours in our du'as. So these people remain among the Muslim in the previous world. This refers to people who try to follow the directives of their Rabb in the most befitting way. This quality is found only in those people in whom the belief in the hereafter has fully taken. They're very sure, they are confident, they have this strong yaqeen in them of the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they would try to they would do their best in whatever is instructed or required of them. Such people do this as if they are witnessing Allah, because they have the conviction that if they are not being able to observe Allah, at least Allah is observing. By using the word muhsinin for the muttaqin, light is shed on the inner self. Since these people fully believe in the reward and punishment, hence their piety is not merely a display of piety, it is a spirit of ihsan in it. Right? So it is not only being aware, being as the muttaqin is being aware, being always conscious, but moving on a further step of wanting it to be the best in what they do. Right? They will not be happy with the kind of salat that in which their mind goes roaming around. Right? They will put in extra effort, lots of dua before they start their salat. They will do They were du'as like Rabbi a'udhu bika min hamazati shayatin wa a'udhu bika Rabbi ayahdurun, right? Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. All these are recited by them before they move into their salah. They just jump in the salah. Oh, time to pray, let's pray, and move into it and just pray and then finish off the prayer. No, after their prayers, they would do all the zikrs and whatever, and they would read the Quran again and again. They would study, they would learn, they would. It's amazing people. All right. It has been indicated above that only this piety will be of any value before Allah, and it is engendered from a deep grounding in the belief of reward and punishment. At the end of the day, it's still reward and punishment, but as mentioned, it might take different forms, right? The reward for those who are ashikas, right? The reward is a sign of Allah's acceptance of them, and that is what they want. They want the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they are punished, it shows Allah's wrath on them, and they just are fearful of Allah's wrath on them. That is why they don't want to be maghdubs. And so the word maghdub is used, and it's really powerful word. We are so used to saying that word maghdub in our Fatiha that we don't understand and don't seem to feel the seriousness of being a maghdub, because the word maghdub is an ism, which means that is their state, a state of being in a state of being they incur anger, right, from Allah, from the angels, from any creature of Allah, or the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is angry with them for their rudeness, for their insolence, right, against, and not wanting to honor Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كانوا قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون. كانوا, they were قليلا, a little. And you can see this is a nasab here, because you see a fathatain here. من الليل, of the night, ما يهجعون, what they sleep. The word haja'a is used, which is again not a normal word used. From what I remember, only once this word is used. We use the word naum, usually as sleep, but now Allah introduces a different word. So here we realize that there's great beauty in the words that are used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the reason why some of the Arabs during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they come to it, straight away, when they heard the verses from the Quran, they knew it cannot be from a human being. It is definitely divinely inspired. That is what Allah has mentioned, that the Jews and the Christians, the people of the book are people who knew the book. They knew the book, they learned the book, and Allah says the Quran is, they know the Quran. They know the Quran means they know that it is divinely inspired. It cannot be from Rasulullah, right? As even better than they know their own children, right? So these are great moments for us to actually realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in, right, has given us the Quran in the best of manners. And the Arabs, right, when it's those who denies the Quran, they knew it was beautiful words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they just deny it because of their own inability to accept truth. Right? They used to sleep by little in the night. So kanu qalilan, a little, min al-layl, of the night, ma yahja'un, that they sleep. So this is another characteristic of these people. So they used to be muhsinin, right? They used to sleep by the middle of the night. In this world, we are some influenced by lots of things outside of what Rasulullah did. People who fear not sleeping because they are told by some people out there, sometimes non-Muslims also, that we need 8 hours of sleep. But if you look at Rasulullah, right, he would sleep at about maybe just after Isha, maybe about 9 or 10. And he would wake up at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. So sleep was only about 4 or 5 hours, right? And then he would do his prayers, he would fikir, because there are things that we need to do. We need to think, we need to read the Quran, ponder over the Quran, They realize the meaning of the Quran. We need to, of course, do our salat prayers. And Rasulullah SAW would stand. We've heard of stories of in the seerah of him standing up and reciting like 3 surahs, Baqarah, Imran, and Nisa, right? Well, when we listen to such stories, chances are the Prophet ﷺ actually knew the whole Quran even before they were revealed somehow, right? Because we have like narrations of Rasulullah reading the Quran through with Malaikat Jibril during Ramadan, whereas we are aware that the Quran took 23 years to be revealed, and Surah Al-Baqarah itself was revealed to about 9-10 years to be revealed, right? And last verse was today we have perfected the religion for you, and which was revealed during the Hajj. But it would not be a surprise to any one of us here if the Prophet ﷺ was blessed with the knowledge of the whole of the Quran, right, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what we're saying here is that Rasulullah ﷺ did read the verses of the Quran even before they were revealed, as mentioned, right? Now, this thing about sleeping at night is not something that comes later. As we are aware, this Surah Al-Zhariyat is somewhere in the 11th year of the Prophet's mission, and he was still in Mecca, where things are quite difficult rather difficult for him after the passing on of his uncle Abu Talib, and his wife Khadijah radiallahu anha. Now, we do note that in the early years of Islam, right, in Surah, I can't remember which Surah it was, but either Surah Muddathir, Muzammil, right, where Rasulullah SAW was asked to pray through the night, right, a little bit or half of it or a quarter of it, and that was at that time prayer was only confined to nights, right? Daytime we didn't pray, and then it was changed, right? So you can see there's a progression in developing faith in these people of to actually turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at nights. But here we are talking about those people, right, who are in Jannah. They are people of taqwa, and they are people of muhsin, right? They actually sleep very little and stay awake at night. These are special qualities of them. This refers to the sign of their piety and ihsan. They sleep very little in the night, as mentioned. Rasulullah would sleep 4 hours, or 4 to 4 hours, around maybe 10 to 2, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours. And then in the morning, right, before Zohor, they would actually sleep for another half an hour, right? And that actually, Rasulullah has told us, would strengthen us to be able to wake up for our tahajjud prayers. And we as believers, we believe that it is not the number of hours that matters. What is important is the blessing of the sleep that is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is the one who sustains us. We have 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and we are still good, right, in performing our daily activities, right? And of course, a short nap in the daytime is very, very important for all of us actually who wake up for tahajjud. You don't have to be in deep sleep according to the various ulama. You just have to just rest your head for a while. Maybe a 20-minute rest would just be good. Even if you don't doze off, it's still good for you. All right. That's called qaylul, means day sleep. They do not spend, I can't remember the exact word. They do not spend the night sleeping in negligence and in indifference. They spend it while preparing for the day of accountability. Better part of their night is spent in prostrating and standing before their Rabb in reflection and deliberation. It is exactly what they do. They are awake. Allah didn't mention that they pray in the night or they read the Quran in the night, but they are awake for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This verse mentions the necessary effect of being concerned about the hereafter. You really have a strong belief in the hereafter, in the next world, then you would definitely wake up in the night, at least for half an hour, right? Those people who find it difficult to wake up, right? Make it a habit to wake up maybe half an hour before Fajar, before Subuh, right? Because we are aware, we believe what the Quran tells us, that these are times where when the angels will be there, right, looking at us, and then the angels will change shift, and the angels that go up at Fajar, they would change shift, and they would go up and meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, the all-knowing, would actually ask the angels, what was my slave doing at that time? And the angel would say they were praying to you now. So these are, so that Allah doesn't know, but Allah loves, right, to acknowledge that there are slaves of Allah who would deny themselves of sleep just to be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be obedient slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, the change in shift occurs during sunset, sunrise and sunset, the angels. And it is good that the angels leave us while we are in state of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this next shift comes in looking at us obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Quran mentioned that these people are people who would spend time during Fajr, right? They do their zikirs and everything. Also, some has taught us the various morning zikirs and the night zikirs. And at time, at sunrise, at sunset, they are not busy with all kinds of things, but they are aware of the glory and the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sitting down, doing their zikir, doing their Quran, and praying Maghrib. Maybe they are fasting, they eat a little bit they break their fast, and then they continue to do ibadah until Isha. And after Isha, they would actually sleep for a while, 4 or 5 hours before they wake up again, right, to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean they don't work. Islam believes in work, it believes in earning money, right, and not just pray and read Quran and that, because that is part of the duty of people, of Muslims, is to earn money, right, to be of benefit to others, and also as a responsibility where the man is concerned to their families. People are not going to sleep into a deep slumber. They always think that perhaps they are spending their last night in this world. For this reason, their sleep is not a deep slumber. Well, that is another opinion. In some of us actually go into deep slumber just for a few hours, right? But their mind is always conscious of the fact that they desire, right, to wake up in the early mornings to be with their Rabb. And they are chosen, inshallah, blessed, right, to be able to wake up in those hours to be with their Rabb. Alhamdulillah. They keep getting up in the night to remember their Rabb and seek his forgiveness. The sentence can be passed in various ways. However, the meaning will be the same in all cases. One option can be that sleeping at night would be a little, to be praised. I don't want you to do it past here, but it seems it's a normal, it's a word, it's an English word, which I've not heard before anyway. I thought it was phrased, but it's the way it is presented, or the way it is interpreted. Another option can be, little did they sleep at night. So meaning is almost the same. Is they're sleeping at night will be little did they sleep at night, right? Thus, there are many ways of grammatically passing the sentence, but the meaning is almost the same. The word haja'a, right? This is the word that we use to sleep, means to sleep at night, and it's evident from this that this is a special feature of the pious and virtuous, that they sleep very little in the night. So this is yahja'un, right? That means they sleep, but their mind, they are in deep sleep, right? They wake up to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So their sleep is a sleep of consciousness in some sense, conscious that they need to wake up to be with their Rabb. They spend a part of it in remembering Allah, asking for his forgiveness, and reflecting on his signs. I remember a friend of mine, his father was a very pious man who lived until about 100 years old, and he would wake up at 3 a.m. and then his daughter would say, "You're too old, it's okay, you should just rest and sleep." He says, "No, I have so much to recite that if I don't wake up at 3 a.m., I won't be able to finish all the various recitals taught by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So the daughter, out of her care and concern for, that is my friend, of her father, actually changed the alarm, right? And he got upset because he couldn't finish the various du'as and recitals that was taught by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He knew because he has arranged his timing in such a manner. وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. And by the dawn, siwa, and by Bil. Bil can have many meanings now. So some say in, some say with, some say here. We look at it, right, as to understand or to use the ba so that a right preposition is used, right, to this. And by the morning, and you can see the translation here, and in the morning, right? Or bil ashar, look at the word sahur, sahur. Ashar is sahur, right? It's not really morning. So you can see the one say morning here and the one say dawn here. So you can see the translations can be quite different, and they would actually mean differently when you talk about dawn and morning. If you look at the word sahar, you look at the word sahur. Sahur is the time where we actually eat our meal before sunrise. So before dawn, not sunrise, before dawn. We do not eat as Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has mentioned, right? It is stop eating until the white thread is visible from the black thread, not literally as one Sahabat actually thought it was, but you will see at the horizon. Dawn is at the moment where at the horizon you'll see a slither of light, right? So it's just the sun coming out, but the sun not actually coming out completely, but just a little bit of the light being seen on the horizon against the dark sky. So that is dawn. So they, by dawn, they would seek forgiveness. Yastaghfirun, ya wa nun, they, from the word ghafara, ista structure, right? So this is fi'il mudari in its rafa state. So here is an emphasizing the time, and by the dawn, whom they seek forgiveness. وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. The time just before daybreak is that of dawn. Mentioned here is the objective of the awakening the night and kneeling and prostrating before Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So the last of their tasks would be that they ask for forgiveness in the early hours of dawn. Forgiveness for all, inshallah. They ask forgiveness from themselves. They ask forgiveness from Allah, from all, and it is advised. It is in one of the hadiths of Rasulullah also, in which we are advised to recite Allahumma astaghfirullahil lil-mu'mineen wal-mu'minat. Astaghfirullah lil-mu'mineen wal-mu'minat. I seek forgiveness for all believers, men and women. These are people who seek forgiveness for all, and it is said that when you say this, we our knowledge of Islam, we link them together. Whatever we learn all these years, and this is the way the ulama also did it. The ulama did it. We are informed, right, by Rasulullah SAW, that when we make a dua for a person, the angels will dua for us. So when we make this dua, Astaghfirullah lil mu'mini wal mu'minat, right? Allah, I seek forgiveness from you, Ya Allah, right? For all believers and all men and women. Imagine the number of believers, men and women that's out there in this world, right? Lil mu'minin wal mu'minat. So we are making prayer for at least 1 million, maybe, believers. I mean, most of us might not be mu'min, right? Alladhina amanu, most of us alladhina amanu. The difference is that when we say we are a mu'min, we are definitely a person of strong belief in Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the prophets, the angels, the books of Allah, right? Predestination and things like that. These are the pillars of Iman, right? But not of us, all us in that state of mu'min. Most of us are alladhina amanu, which is mentioned by the Quran, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, those who believe. Because at times we might go into states of doing actions, right, which would put us in the category of disbelievers. And it's what Allah has said that when a person disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at that point in time, he is a disbeliever. A person who is in a state of belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would never ever imagine disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so as mentioned, we say that 27 times in the morning. So you can imagine the great amount of du'as, right, that is prayed for you by the angels. Right? Every single seeking of forgiveness for the believers, right? There'll be 7 million du'as. Assuming there are 7 million believers, it cannot be that, it's more. Anyway, so that's what it is. Astaghfirullah lil mu'mini wal mu'minat 27 times early in the morning before subuh. Of course, inshallah, we are believers, and the dua, the seeking of forgiveness is for us too. Another zikr that we are advised also is to say Subhanallah bihamdi, Subhanallah al-azim, astaghfirullah. Right? Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, right? All glorious or all perfect is Allah with praises, bihamdihi, these praises. Subhanallah bihamdi, Subhanallah al-azim. All perfect is Allah, the supreme, and then we seek forgiveness. 100 times, we do that in the morning also. These are all teachings which came from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right, so that is what they would. They in the early morning, they turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking forgiveness for all their faults and their wrongs, and for everyone. So inshallah, this are mu'min. And we have also another dua for this is our believers. There are du'as for mu'min also. Mu'min is those, Muslim, those who are who acknowledge themselves as people who have submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they beseech Allah to forgive their sins when the day of judgment comes, and as a result, grant them a place in paradise. And we seek Allah. We are aware that our actions, our ibadah, our reading of the Quran might not be perfect. Our seeking forgiveness might not be so good. Our sadaqah might not be as good as it should be. Our salat, not good. They are deficient, I would say. We try. What is important is the effort, right? It's not the result. The effort is very important, right? And Allah, inshallah, Allah will have mercy on us for the fact that we have faith in the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we do our best as much as we can, right, to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because we want Allah to be pleased with us and have mercy on us. And we know that we need Allah to forgive us. And they said Rasulullah says astaghfirullah 70 times, and that we have gone through this 70 does not mean 70 per se. 70 means a lot, right, in the Arabic language. And it's evident from this that neither they expected that as reward for this practice they will be given a high status by Allah, nor did they go after such things. The only desire would be that Allah forgoes their blemishes and mistakes. So here, seeking forgiveness, the importance of seeking forgiveness is that you have acknowledged the fact that you have done wrong and against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so you seek forgiveness from him. Seeking forgiveness is an act of ibadah because of you acknowledging that you are not right in disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you ask him to forgive your mistakes and blemishes. Thus, the night worship would culminate in imploring the Almighty to pardon them. It's evident from this discussion that the purpose of worship and enslaving to Allah in Islam is different from that of other religions. In other religions, its purpose is divine manifestation in witnessing God and his disclosures, amalgamation in his being, and other similar things. These are, of course, opinions again of scholars, but there are many reasons why people worship God. And our worship of God is rather different, as we would be able to analyze. If we have the time to, we are not really aware, like the Christians, why do they worship God? Right. the Jews, why do they worship? How do they worship? We don't realize that our way of approaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is special. It is the way Allah wants us to worship Him. Right? The salat that we have is not a salat that is just the way we as Ummah of Rasulullah did it. This form of salat, bowing and prostrating, but it has been there since the time of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. All of them were taught the way to go into the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to humble ourselves as we we are in a position of reverence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim wa bihamdi. And when we sujood, right, we're in a state of humbling ourselves in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are great moments that we are blessed with. And we are aware, as mentioned just now, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pray, right, until his feet were swollen and he stood so long that he might have some kind of an edema, right, and on his feet. And Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha would ask him, Ya Rasulullah, your sins are all forgiven, right? You are promised Jannah. Why do you have to pray until your legs are swollen? She doesn't understand. We got to understand that Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha was a very young girl, right? And she has a lot of learning to do, and she did learn a lot from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even after his passing on, she learned a lot, and she come to realize a lot of things, right? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's reply to her was very simple and beautiful. He says, "Am I not a slave of my Rabb? So and am I not supposed to give thanks to my Rabb?" So the praying that he did was out of great gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what it is. The more we are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more Allah will give us. And when we are ungrateful, things will be becoming more difficult for us. And gratitude is in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the objectives of the religious practices undertaken by Hindus, ascetics, and Christians. And this is talking about ascetics. It's talking that they have this idea of being with their God, to achieve nirvana, and to be one with God. We are aware that we are slaves of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, in Islam, the only purpose of worshipping and enslaving to Allah is to seek His forgiveness and pleasure. Right? We are acknowledge the fact that we are true slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If something else assumes the place of their purpose, then it carries no weight. We sacrifice our sleep for Allah, right? We seek forgiveness knowing that our amals are deficient. And we are fearful of being in a state of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we don't want to be among the maghdubs, right? It is evident both from the Quran and Hadith that the most appropriate time for asking forgiveness from Allah is the last part of the night and the early hours of dawn. These hours of dawn. It's a subuh time, right? And we are encouraged, right? Shows how strong our belief is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the promise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah has said, if you spend 1 hour of the morning at dawn time, dawn subuh time, for Allah, Allah will settle your affairs throughout the day. So much so, if you are to spend that time, the morning hour, the 1 hour in the morning, traveling the whole of the horizon to seek your sustenance, right? You would not get as much as you would get if you just spend 1 hour of the morning for the sake of Allah, and the 1 hour in the evening also, right? That is why it's very important, these two timings of the day, days, times where we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the rising of the sun is acknowledging the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The setting of the sun is acknowledging the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that we are just mere creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has a great need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At that time, as is mentioned in the Qudsi Hadith, the mercy of Allah is waiting for the seekers of forgiveness. Inshallah, Allah bless us with mercies as we seek the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, only the true and earnest seekers have the courage to benefit from this time, the desire to work right? To wake up, to be in the to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to know the importance of waking up for tahajjud. Not every slave of his desires has the determination to spend his night kneeling and prostrating before Allah, and then in the early morning implore him to forgive his sins. Not every slave of his desires, the people who are slave of their desires, right? Not many of them has a determination to kneel and prostrate before Allah, and then in the early morning implore him to forgive his sins. The slave of Allah who shows this determination, actually by this very attitude show they are sincere, inshallah. But then again, you must remember, right, if you are blessed with waking up for tahajjud, waking up before subuh to do your prayers, right, then you must know that it is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which you should be very grateful for, and realize that you are among the chosen ones, not to make you arrogant about that state, but to make you humble that Allah looks at you and chooses. For this reason, the mercy of Allah necessarily turns towards them. It is the sincerity of a person which attracts Allah's mercy. That's why when we do amal saleh means an act in which you follow the directions of Rasulullah SAW, an act which is done sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When this is present, then the treasures of Allah's mercy abound for such a person, inshallah. وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. And in amwalihim, their wealth. Amwal, mal is like Baitul Mal, house of wealth. Amwal is plural. In their wealth, haqqun, a right. Lisa'ilin, haqq has the meaning of truth and has the meaning of a right. This is the haqq of Allah. This is the right. So we say haqq. Lisa'ilin, those who continuously ask. Right? So'al is to ask, sa'ilin, all the time asking. Wal mahroom, and the one denied. From the word haram. Haram is forbidden. They are forbidden. What is it? Mahroom. And in their property was a portion. We don't like the word property, but the wealth. Because property might not sound as good as wealth. Wealth covers anything. Was a portion due to him who begs and to him who is denied. Good. Right? Those who beg, right? Questions here. Right? Those who ask. وفي أموالهم حق للسائل والمحروم. Thus, just as these people befittingly follow Allah's directives and recognize their obligations towards Him, similarly, they are the ones who fully carry out their obligations towards their fellow humans. So, first to Allah, right? That is why in Islam and in the Quran, many times Allah says that right? They perform established salat, that is their relationship. They are aware of their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that as slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they need to bow and prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also wa aqimus salah wa atuz zakah, and they give zakat. And of course, some ulama has said that zakat is not really confined to giving zakat, where you have surplus of money, where you have your money savings has reached a certain amount, or your businesses has moved on to certain volumes. We must remember that zakat is not only on savings, zakat is also on businesses. And so those who have lots of businesses with volumes of profits should learn what it is of their business that must be given away in zakat, not only the savings. Because we need to, of course, the ulama would be able to relate those rulings, the earlier rulings, the rulings for people of agriculture, right? And the kind of zakat they have to give because of agriculture. So they would actually look at it and find an analogy with our businesses in this modern world, which is not agricultural in nature, but still is a means of acquiring wealth. Okay? So they are aware that there is a right, right? In their wealth, there is a right for those who ask. So it's not only about giving zakat, but also in sadaqah. Sadaqah is a voluntary act, whereas zakat is a wajib act on us. Right? If you don't do your zakat, then you would be sinning. But if you don't give sadaqah, you're not sinning because it's something that is asked of you. Right? So it is something that those people of Mohsin, they realize that they need to give. Right? That is, and we've seen these examples, amazing examples from people of, I've read stories of people, this great ulama, who have lots of money, but they would actually bake bread, right, to give to the poor around them. Every day they would bake bread. They make it a point that Allah gives them this ability, and they have the means, right? They would every day bake bread to give to the poor. It's just like great people, beautiful creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? They are aware that there is a right on their money. Right? And this is, of course, is an extension of what we saw, as mentioned, a description of people of taqwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. Right? He describes the people of taqwa, yes, الذين يؤمنون بالله وبالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون, right? And they pray, and of what they were provided, right, they would spend. Right? So that one is very open because it didn't narrow down to wealth, right? But then again, it's whatever they are provided. They are provided strength. They use their strength to spend on to benefit others. They are provided with lots of time. They use their time to benefit others. They are provided with charisma. They use their charisma to talk and influence others to do good. They are provided with knowledge. They use their knowledge to bring people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anybody that asks, right? But wealth also, if we look at it in a narrow sense, that is just property, right? But amwal, right? Wealth could be wealth of knowledge, wealth of character, right? So people who ask you, you actually give. You know, you know that you need to share. You need to be part of the world. They not only acknowledge their own right in their wealth, but also of the deprived and the needy. They discharge this right the way a right should be discharged. They're not in the misconception that they are the sole owners of their wealth. So Allah emphasized, for whatever we gave them, right, they spend. Right? So they don't hoard their wealth, fear of losing their wealth. They are fully aware of the fact that if the Almighty has provided them beyond their essential needs, then they have actually been entrusted with wealth that is a right of others. As a result, it must be given to its recipients. If this is not done, then it will be an outright breach. For every breach, a person shall be held accountable before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they worry. And said, we have Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, rich man. And he's blessed with lots of wealth. When he was from Mecca, so he's a muhajir. So when he reached Medina, right, when he migrated, right, and Rasulullah has allotted one person, has arranged so that there is a brother for every single muhajir, has a brother who is an ansar. And they are supposed to house the muhajirs in their houses, share with whatever they have. So a very, very great moment for the ansars to be there for the muhajirs who left Mecca without a single thing, right? Nothing at all. They left all their wealth in Mecca because they wanted to get away from the persecution there. And also, of course, this is a changing, a very important stage in the life of Prophet ﷺ, where Islam could flourish, right, in Medina. So all of the plans of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he is a very rich man. Not because he left Mecca, got nothing. So when he arrives in Medina, he asked them to show him the marketplace, because that's where he makes money. It is said that Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, if he is to overturn a rock, he will find gold in it. That means his rizki is just like, subhanallah, right? And once Aisha radiallahu anha, right, saw a huge long caravan of goods coming from Syria or from Yemen, and he says, who does it belong to? And says that it was Abdurrahman ibn Auf, so rich, really rich. And Aisha make a comment and says, he will be questioned for every single thing that he has in that long train of caravans. When he was going to die, Rahman Auf, right, he closed his hands. Right? Why are you closing your hands? He says, because I'm so afraid if I open my hands, money would just be falling into my hands, because that's how rich, how blessed he is with money. But he is a person whom we can envy because he spends and spends and spends. Because I'm so afraid I'm going to die and I got so much money in my hands and I got no time to give away. It's an example of people of taqwa, muhsin. The word mahrum refers to every person deprived of wealth. However, it especially refers to those persons who are affluent at some time and will later on deprived of their wealth by some calamity. And this happens and many, many times. Rich people become poor. Kings become slaves. Slaves become kings. Right? This is of course referring to those who have lost men. So for such people, the Quran has used the word gharimin. Sorry, this is supposed to be an Arabic word, not supposed to be there. All right, Quran is used the word gharimin. Gharimin, right, are those who are indebted. And they have been included among those to whom charity can be given. Among the deprived, there are many who, in spite of being needy, feel very embarrassed to ask for them. So there's two groups of people. There are people who used to have money, and then certain things happen, business fail and everything, they lose their money. So they need money, or they went into debt, and they are classified as one of the asnafs of zakat. And there are those who doesn't have money, but and yet they are shy to ask. So Quran has mentioned these people, and we can recognize them. We know there are people without money, but they don't want to be beggars, right? In particular, people who have remained affluent hold their self-esteem very dear to them. Since this word is used in contrast with the word lisa'ilin, those who ask, the indication is clear that it refers to the deprived who do not even ask for their needs. To give due regard to the self-esteem of such people is a big virtue, right? These people have got honor. I was listening again to the conversation between Hamza Yusuf and Imran Khan. Imran Khan was saying that he was making his house, and there were some workers down there doing work, and it was really hot, and some of them would just sit around just to rest. They drink water and things like that. There's one particular young man who just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked through the day. And Imran Hossein was very amazed by him, or was so Imran actually, in the end of the day, went to him and gave him money. See, you have done so much work today. You didn't stop working. He gives money. The man says, "No, I have been paid for my work. Right? Do not give me any money." So that is dignity, right? And sometimes also related, when he was in Medina, there was a man selling candies, and it was 2 riyals per candy, and he had 10 riyals, so he didn't have change, and so his kids wanted some candy, so he bought the candy, and he says, the man, keep the change. We always do that. So he said, no, I'm not a beggar here, right? I only take 2 riyals for candies. This is examples of very dignified people. Another place in the Quran, the affluent are directed to try to reach out to such people and help them. Such people cannot be expected to come to them for their needs. All right, let's recite and recall. Innal muttaqina fi jannatin wa uyun, akhidhina ma atahum rabbuhum, innahum kanu qabla dhalika muhsinin, kanu qalilan min al-layli ma yahja'un, وبالأسحار هم يستغفرون وفي أموالهم حق للسائل والمحروم. الحمد لله. اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم استودعك ما علمتني فدده إلي وقت حاجاتي إليه فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا. ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا. ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القتر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. العصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.